Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rewatchers Council. We're live this time, Adelia. Adelia, how are you?
Yeah. I've been better. I've been a little sick, but
Mhm.
happy to be here on this 4th of July.
Sure. Happy 4th of July to those who celebrate. You know what it was to
And
me?
happy belated Canada Day to you.
There you go. I was going to say it's more like a Thursday to me, but Buffy the Vampire. You know what I think about when I think the 4th of July, Adelia? I
What?
think three things:
Okay.
fireworks, naturally.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, they hand out the mustard belt on Coney Island, the probably the most American thing ever done, the hot dog eating contest.
Which I hate.
Yes, of course. Uh, I believe the winner had 58 hot dogs and buns.
That's that's
58.
just insanity. That's
Yeah,
just utter insanity to me.
yeah. That guy automatically goes to hell for this. So, and number three, of course, I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nothing more American, if you ask me.
I mean, I was definitely thinking Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I watched this episode earlier today and I
Sure.
quite enjoyed it.
It's a it's a good one. We're going to be talking phases, of course. Yeah, it's a big Oz episode, big Willow episode, I guess as well. Well, it's just not a very. There's one character that comes in here for I don't even know the reason. I guess just to remind people that he's still part of the show, even though yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why he showed up at all. Didn't have to be. Anyways, we'll talk about that when we get to
Happy
that.
4th of July from Councilman at Large Brennan Mystical. Mar? How you doing, Brennan?
Brennan's busy taking care of some business. You know what I mean.
Mm,
Happy 4th of July to you, sir. All right. Well, let's go through the regular spiel here.
okay.
Its original air date, January 27th, 1998. I don't think there was no fireworks that day, besides this
No.
episode. So it was written by Rob Desautels and Dean Batali. Once again, of course, they were more story editors on this season. But they still had a few episodes written in. They were also wrote the last one they wrote was the Dark Age, if you remember that one with you know some other English jerks. So yeah, you know there was no tea party in Sunnydale just because there's a few Englishmen there. Directed by Bruce Seth Green, who directed so many. Now, want to guess what the number one movie is?
I'm gonna guess it's still Titanic.
It's of course it's Titanic. I think it's Titanic until 2021 or something like that. And the number one song in the U.S. Surprisingly, I say surprisingly. I'm trying to remember what '98 was really like, but "Truly, Madly, Deeply," still the number one song in the
That
United States of
that
America.
that tracks. That does track because I remember that
Ugh,
song was utterly huge for a moment there.
ugh, so gross. Uh, Number one song in the UK, a much better song from a band I love, but admittedly, this isn't one of my favorite songs of theirs. "All Around the World" by Oasis was the number one song in the UK.
Okay.
And in Canada, just to add to our national shame, not long after
Oh no.
Tub Thumping spent so long atop our Canadian charts, we have 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20 as the number one song in
I remember
Canada.
that being a very big song as well.
Well, yeah. Canada stepping to the front of the line to make sure Matchbox 20 has a number one hit. All right. DVD synopsis time. This one is a. All right. Well, we'll see. Buffy and her friends discover secrets about themselves dealing as they battle a werewolf, its hunter, and their own emotions.
I mean, that kind of works.
I think that's a little forced, don't you think?
It's a little forced, but it
It's a
kind of
little,
works.
yeah, they do battle a werewolf, and
They do.
it's hunter. Their
Hmm.
own emotions. I don't know if they're battling it. Anyways,
Yeah.
on ideally, all right. Well, I think we've wasted enough time here. time to get into the meat, the story here. Now, sort of fitting that the episode begins with our good friend Daniel Osborne. He's standing in front of that trophy case.
This made me laugh.
Willow comes up to him and says, he's talking about the trophy, says that he likes it. It's like his eyes follow him around the room and stuff like that. We all know why.
Yeah.
Good old Amy's mom hanging out there. We're going to see more of Amy maybe pretty soon on this show. Anyways, also, looks like Oz and Willow spending a little more time together. Some quality time.
Mhm.
Maybe not the kind of quality time that one of them would really like, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. Let's say awkward is a kind of a good way to describe Willow and Oz at this point.
Yeah.
I would say that awkward is a good way to describe Willow or Oz at the best of time. Now, Willow sees Buffy, says friend there, see you gone or whatever, leaves with Buffy. Then we see our old pal Larry show up for the first time in a while.
Larry.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a Halloween. I think that was the last episode he was on. Anyways, yeah, he seems to really like the idea of Buffy and Willow together. You know, there's a comic book that he might want to read later on. Oz is just kind of Oz throughout this whole thing. I'm surprised that Oz and Larry would be on speaking terms.
That didn't make much sense to me. Like, why does Larry, who's clearly portrayed as a jock with his Letterman's jacket and things, like want anything to do with Oz?
Well,
the
Oz
band
is
guy.
He's a friendly guy, I guess.
I guess.
It just all right. It just doesn't. They don't seem like the type that could be even on. Well, I wouldn't say unfriendly terms, but more than a wave in the hallway. I remember those kind of days. So Larry, is Mr. Masculinity, Mr. Toxic Masculinity, I would think, even knocks that girl's books out of her hands, says maybe one of the most 90s lines you will ever hear when he yells at, oh, thank you, Thigh Master.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Thigh Master. R.I.P. Suzanne Summers. I remember the ex having a Thigh Master for a while. I can't remember how much it cost for her to use it twice, I believe, and it just kind of stayed in the closet there. After that, like most exercise equipment, let's get real. Anyways, Larry wants to know if Willow's putting out and stuff like that. You never really get Oz's answer, though. You would imagine he wouldn't have given up the answer anyways. Because then we cut to a very frustrated, it seems, Willow talking with Buffy. Turns out she wants smoochies, Adelia. Buffy's just being very reassuring here. Willow drops the she doesn't want to be the only guy or only girl at school without a real boyfriend. And of course, Buffy does the sad look and stuff like that. Some of the scenes in this one are a little schlocky and stuff like that. So but
sure.
So it's like all right. It has better scenes than this, I can tell you that. So Buffy, to her credit, forgives Willow pretty quickly, and then says that her and Willow and Xander should all have a sharing our misery night for some reason. And then Willow tries to remember Xander's phone number, and she recalls that it's 1-800 I'm dating a skanky hoe. Adela.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd call Cordelia that.
No, and I tried to call that number myself. I was like, oh, it doesn't work. That's an awful lot of numbers as well.
Yeah.
But it was the 90s, They had those things or whatever. I'm sure you could have bad I'm a skanky hoe or whatever. You could have gotten somewhere with it. Anyways, she gets a well-earned meow for this. So she's very proud of herself as Willow for finally getting a meow for some reason. Then We do notice that Xander and Willow start talking about each other's love lives quite a bit. And maybe Xander at the most, inopportune times, as he's out at makeout point. It looks like here.
I love how they just like went from them at school to a cutting to Xander and Cordelia when it's clearly night now.
There's a couple of problems with time in this episode.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that there's
Yeah.
a few time problems which we've encountered so often in the show, and we just have to say, of course, it's like we just go with it. It can be
We just
day
go
and
with it,
night at the
yeah.
same time here. So yeah, Cordy's getting a little pissed off at him. She wants the focus on her and stuff like that. But Xander's hearing a noise, and then he hears it again, and she's finally had enough. It's like, okay, I'm out of here. Then the camera starts pulling back, but we see this a werewolf or this fuzzy-looking dude maybe staring at them. And then the cut to the break, and then next thing you see, it's like, okay, we're out. Here comes a big furry hand through the ragtop, Delia. It's got to be about a 45. I don't even know how much it costs to fix, but I don't think Cordelia's the type just to duct tape that thing. Again, you know what I mean?
I don't think so either. She
She'd
also
probably get
said it was
Daddy to
her
do it.
dad's car.
Yeah.
So she's got to somehow explain that to Dad now.
Yeah, wasn't that the Queen C mobile? I don't know. I didn't see the license plate.
No, she very clearly said that was her dad's car.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, the hand comes through and stuff like that, and they have to have the we can't find the keys trope. That didn't really pay off though. Like she finds it literally a second later. It's like, oh, didn't even then they do the quick reverse, slam on the brakes. Werewolf goes flying. They get out of there. So they hear about that night. There's been all these animals being attacked and stuff like that. Willow's all worried about the bunnies. As reassures her that bunnies can take care of themselves and stuff like that. There's going to be another character coming up at some point, very worried about bunnies as well, maybe for completely different reasons. So Giles says they're going to be ready for this werewolf by the next full moon, and that's when Willow reminds him that last night, or the full moon was actually tonight. Last night was like, I believe she says, the night before the full moon, which is considered the night before the full moon. So Giles is very intrigued. He's says that the legend of the werewolves only going out at full moon may be erroneous, Adelia.
Giles is so excited to go research with his books. So excited. He's such a dork at that moment.
I like when he says the legend may be erroneous, and then Cordelia says, or it's a crock. Classic.
Yeah.
Classic. He's pretty enthusiastic, I think is a good word to say about Giles here and stuff like that. Then Buffy with the nice line after he leaves and stuff when he says he needs to get a pet, which is nice. So this isn't a great scene coming out. Let's say this. For some reason, Sunnydale High has a self-defense class, a co-ed self-defense class, and it's being taught by a teacher named Ms. Litto. And I don't even know if it was ever said or whatever. I had to find out the name and stuff like that, so I looked her up and stuff like that. So Ms. Litto, so there you go. Played by Camilla Griggs. She has one of those faces that looks familiar, but there's no possible way I ever saw her in anything else. Like, I think she was in an episode of Magnum PI, the classic one, the Tom Selleck one. And she was in a movie called Forced Vengeance, starring Mr. America himself, Chuck Norris. Okay. So there we go. We've tied the 4th of July into
there
this.
We go.
Episode. Yeah. Fun. This is a true fact. That when the boogeyman goes to sleep at night, he checks under his bed for Chuck Norris. You know that?
Sure.
It's the truth. Why would anyone just say something like that? Anyways, Xander sees a bandage wrapped around Larry's arm. Larry says a big dog bit him, and it
Mm-hmm.
needed 39 stitches. And I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, I've had 80 stitches in my arm. I didn't get a band-aid like that. I just got stitches. So Oz mentions that his cousin Jordy is a biter too, Adelia. And he just
Bit his
offers
finger.
them. Yeah, bit his finger. There's another thing. They put seniors in the same class as juniors for self-defense class.
Yeah. It's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of this. Okay. So anyways, Larry then starts
It's
creeping
just an excuse to get all these characters in the same place to have this scene.
I guess why even make Larry a senior then? I don't make sense. Like he's like grew up bullying Xander. You could have easily just made him the same age.
Same age, yeah.
Yeah. So he starts creeping on another student. This one's named Teresa, ideally, played by Megan Perry. And she was in like episodes of Sabrina and Dawson's Creek. Again, one of those faces. I'm sure you saw her in a lot. No, didn't see her too much. Anyways, Buffy has her back. Larry's getting a little too Larry. So he backs off. Willow has to remind her of her girlishness in schools. But this is the second time Willow's reminded her in a class. And it's the second time we've mentioned this episode, Witch. It's the same episode. Like, so very strange. Anyways, so Miss Litto is teaching judo throws. And Buffy is somehow got Larry as her partner and stuff like that. Larry decides to tell her, "Oh, Summers, you're turning me on." And
which was gross.
And then grabs her ass extremely hard.
Which was also gross.
So she flips me. Yeah. And Willow's giving her a disappointed look by this. 1998.
Yeah.
Somehow they thought, well, also you have to consider some of the sources, I guess, but somehow they thought, this was fine. This is fine to do. Just sexually assault someone in the middle of class.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Not cool. Not cool at all.
Nope. So anyways, enough of that one. Back at the library, Giles is discussing the full moon's effect on the human psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And for maybe the first time ever, I can't think of another time, Xander tells a joke that makes Giles laugh. That's how giddy he is over one of the classics, a werewolf. It's about moon pies too. Like, I don't know. I thought it was
yeah.
Anyways, so it turns out werewolves act on pure instinct. They have no conscience, Adelia. They're predatory and aggressive. And then they say it's like a typical male. It's like, well, maybe a typical male on this show. I wouldn't think a typical male in real life would do this on. Anyways. And then he also stresses that you're not to use a silver bullet because werewolves are human beings for every other day of the month and stuff like that. May not even know they're a werewolf. And we're going to talk about something like that when we get to it in a minute. Anyways, Buffy and Giles go patrolling around the makeout point. Buffy is very excited because of all the hot gossip she's been gathering, Adelia, which is pretty nice.
I mean, that's very important to a teenage girl, so.
I suppose you're right. Buffy reminds Giles that window knocking would be useless when he suggests it. And then, so she decides, well, I'm just going to go search into the woods. And as she's doing that, she gets gathered up in a net, just like she's C-3PO or something like that in Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
The exact same way. But this Ewok has a gun pointed at her, it seems. It's a hunter named Kane, of course. Of course his name is Kane. Now, he's played by a guy named Jack Conley, who it seems like has been in everything. And this guy does have one of those faces, and for sure you've seen it in something. He was in Fast and the Furious, which I haven't seen. Sons of Anarchy, which I haven't seen. CSI. He was in The Mentalist, so I probably saw him in something like that, but didn't even place him or whatever. Just has one of those faces. He cuts down Buffy. We get another gross thing here where he assumes that Giles and Buffy are together.
Yeah, that was really gross too. There's a lot of really
Mm-hmm.
gross stuff at moments in this episode.
Yeah. They say, no, they're out hunting werewolves. And he starts laughing. He says, oh, you think can't hunt werewolves or whatever? He's like, no, just you look like a librarian. And you're just a girl.
Yeah, that was also not great.
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole point of the show and stuff like that. They hit you over the head with this a lot. Like this whole episode is like things just aren't always what they seem, kind of a deal, right? So yeah, we get it because they absolutely hit you over the head with it 100 times in this episode.
Yeah.
So turns out Kane is looking to get his 12th werewolf, and he takes a tooth from everyone that he kills, and then he sells the pelts in Sri Lanka.
That was weird.
Of all the countries, Sri Lanka. Anyways, what is nice though, you can say what you will about Kane being a skin-ripping murderer. He does give them a hint on how to find the werewolf, which is nice.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he tells them that they're attracted to sexual heat. So,
sure,
if that werewolf isn't at makeout point, there's only one other place it would be on, right? And we all know it. But first, and this is the scene, I have no idea why they ever included, no reason to do this at all. You see Teresa walking home. She hears some rustling in the bushes. So we know that means, Adelia, werewolf. But no, it's not a werewolf. No, unfortunately for her, it's our old friend Angel twirling a flower at night. There's nothing more creepy than that.
Yeah. This whole scene was so weird.
Yeah. He gains her trust by just saying, oh, Buffy. It's like, oh, Buffy? It's like, yes, I do. Very well. Here, I'll walk you home.
Yeah, she's like, that was very mustache twirling villain.
Yeah,
right there.
He should have had a top hat on and stuff like that. He's from the
this was very strange to include. Like, I understand that they wanted to keep the storyline of Buffy versus Angel going, but this was a weird way to do it.
Yeah, you could have done it with any other vampire, really. Yeah, there's lots of ways you could have done. Anyways, so we go when there's sexual heat that you want in Sunnydale. You go to the Bronx. Nothing says sexual heat like teenagers and liquor. And a band. So they have a band playing again at the Bronze. First of all, the Bronze is here, and there's actual people in it this time. Well, more people than just the regular Scooby Gang. So, yes, they're all listening to a band named Lotion. Of all things. Sure. Yeah, I found that out. I forget what the song's called, though. I sound like Playing Blind or something like that. Ugh, whatever. Anyways, Willow and Cordelia talking now in public.
I did enjoy this.
They're talking in public to each other. Yeah. So unfortunately for Oz and Xander, turns out there are a couple of guys. There's nothing worse than a couple of guys. Oh well. Unfortunately, their little chat gets disrupted, Adelia. By what?
A werewolf.
Werewolf. That's exactly right. A werewolf. A werewolf that happens just to pounce down in the, I'm supposing, the middle of the bar. Nobody else noticed till this thing is a very sneaky werewolf. I can say that. So anyways, everyone starts to scramble. Here comes the Giles mobile, though, just in time. And Buffy starts searching around. See, okay, let's find this werewolf. She gets up on stage, and the wolf, like, kind of just glides in. It's okay. There's gonna be more. Like, spoiler alert, there's gonna be more werewolf episodes. and they get better. Like the wolf gets better than the same kind of frozen face with the lips that kind of move a little bit. So
Yeah.
the guy that plays this, like is in the suit. His name's Keith Campbell, and again, a stuntman that's done so much. Like he was in the Amazing Spider-Man. I don't know if he was Spider-Man or if he was like the lizard guy or whatever. But Men in Black, which I have to mention just for our pal Ferris, who really enjoys a certain line from Men in Black for some reason.
There's a short about that on this channel.
WandaVision, he was in Bumblebee. He was in
Lots
that
of
movie.
stuff.
Yeah, that movie Spaceman, like he's still doing this stuff. So Buffy, luckily for her, had a very large chain in her purse. Long enough.
As one does.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine she does, but it would just have been all chain because this is quite a bit of chain. Whips it around his neck, starts grabbing it. Looks like she's tussling a bit. He throws her, the wolf throws her over the drum set. He takes off. So next thing we see, Kane is at the bronze interrogating Buffy. There's no cops or anything like that. They're just kind of
there's no
guy
cops.
just sweeping up.
There's employees of the bronze. Why are they still there and openly talking about a werewolf in front of these people? I have so many questions about that scene.
Yeah, so there's some things that were, a little difficult. So he's interrogating her like he's the cops and stuff like that. He's, of course, doubting her because of her gender, Adelia.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah. Then he tells her, if anyone gets hurt, it'll be on your head. And but yeah, to their credit, this is a great Buffy line when she says, "I live every day." So yeah, they leave.
The fantastic line.
Yeah, we see the wolf in the alley. Thankfully, this is the last time that they use that suit. Like I can't stress this enough. This is the last time they're going to use the suit, guys. So in that just that one face. Whatever. Anyways, sees a little blood trail. Then we see Teresa's lifeless body get dumped to the ground. An Angel all vamp-faced, and the two snarl at each other for a while. In legend, of course, werewolves and vampires, not friends.
Yeah.
I don't think this thing has nothing come to it really, though. They just growl at each other. And that was it. Giles and Buffy back in the woods, and they hear on the radio, Adelia, already about poor Teresa's been killed, and it may be linked to the animal attacks that have happened recently. So within an hour, we'll say this, within an hour, they have found, identified, notified their parents, and then broadcast the news. In the middle of the night.
Yeah, in the middle of the night.
About poor Teresa's demise. News used to be a lot more speedy than it is these days, I guess. When they don't have 24 hours to talk about whatever. They just got straight to the point. Anyways, it's almost sunrise now, though. So they all go home. And then dawn starts to break. We see a wolf man asleep in the woods, but slowly and then very quickly begins to regain human form, and to our shock and horror, Adelia, the wolf man is Oz.
It's Oz.
Gotta love how he just says, huh.
Yeah, I love Oz's nonchalant thing about waking up in the woods completely naked. He's just like, oh, this happened. Okay.
He still has his earrings though. I forgot to check. I was going to check to see if that werewolf still had the two earrings and stuff like that. Because I don't know. I could see maybe the clothes not being any good anymore. But now here's the deal. Okay, we'll go on to this next part first. Oz calls his aunt up. He's very direct with her, of course, as is his custom. Asks if his cousin Jordy is a werewolf. And I guess it runs in the Osborne family because we don't hear her response, but we can tell that she very much said, yeah, he's a Turns out he's a werewolf. And they ask, how long has this been going on? He supposedly told how long. And then, he tells her to give his love to their uncle. And that's it. Uncle Ken. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring it up, this is the second night of him being a werewolf. What happened the first night?
Yeah.
He realizes all this stuff on the second night. Yes. I don't understand that part at all.
Maybe it was the repeat of it happening again. Like maybe the first night he doesn't understand what happened or whatever, but when it happens again, it makes him question.
Yeah, he's questioning. He goes to school. He's a little out of sorts. You can see he's still kind of processing this information. He walks into a conversation. Of course, the old walk into a conversation in the library where Buffy's talking about how she should have killed that werewolf when she had the chance. And then he's informed. He gets the news that Teresa was killed, but they still have one more night to stop this werewolf. Xander's worried that the werewolf is making fun of them.
Why?
He has self-confidence issues, Xander, I would imagine.
Sure.
Yeah. He then starts offering more information than he probably would have liked about when he was a hyena, as he had previously mentioned. He didn't remember anything.
Yeah, this is the first episode I can remember where if it isn't related to the main storyline of the season, there's these callbacks to other episodes.
A lot of from season 1 too, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
But good on Giles. Giles doesn't say a word. Giles is the only one who actually knew the truth, if you remember at the end of that episode.
Yep.
So Xander's going to try and get into this werewolf's head. They think alike because of what happened and stuff like that. He starts staring straight at Oz and says, he knows who it is, Adelia. Larry!
It's Larry.
The dog bite, the aggression, the back hair, it all fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oz tries to meekly, stick up for Larry, but Xander has already left to go talk to him. I also enjoy, he says, Giles says, good. He wasn't paying any attention to anything that was going on at all. Giles and Buffy then leave too. Oz is still reeling a little bit, as much as Oz can. Willow asks if he wants to help her in all this helping she has to do because, it makes you feel good to help. But he says he's busy, and he runs off. Oz. Well, can't blame him this time. So, next, we get one of the crappier scenes in Buffy before. Now we get one of the better scenes in Buffy. And when Xander goes to the men's locker room this time, it's a locker room still, but this time it's the men's locker room, Adelia, for a change.
Yeah.
Xander finds Larry and tells him that he knows his secret and what he does at night, Adelia. I tell Larry, even if he hurts him, people are going to find out. Larry then starts backing off a little bit. The aggression starts to wane. He asks Xander if he wants a bribe. Xander says he just wants to help. He asks if he thinks that he has a cure for this. Xander assures him he knows what he's going through because he's been there, Adelia.
Yeah. Xander.
Larry's worried about his reputation. He's worried about being run out of town. You have to remember this is 1998.
1998, yeah.
I think ideas of what is actually going through Larry's head were changing by this time, but maybe not
very slowly.
Nowhere near where it is these days. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And he's wondering how people look at him when they find out he's gay, Adelia.
Yeah. This was a good scene.
Xander is surprised. I think Xander.
I think Xander's very surprised.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as we saw Larry at the beginning and his overtly sexual everything, I was like, he's overcompensating for something here.
Yeah, 100%. And just to make sure that Xander heard it, Larry repeats it a few times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. He says feels good to say it and stuff like that. And he's surprised that it's Xander that actually got him to admit it. Xander says it probably would have slipped out even if he wasn't there. Larry thinks that Xander's going through the same thing, Adelia.
Yeah.
And good on him. Promises to keep Xander's secret.
That's good on Larry. Yeah.
Good on Larry. You were a huge piece of shit and will not be forgiven. But at least you had a good scene and stuff like that. Maybe you can find somewhere in your head now that this big burden is off your shoulders and stuff, Larry.
Yeah.
So Willow's been researching away by herself. Buffy is turns out Buffy is the only other one that could be the werewolf and stuff like that. Willow tells her maybe she should start counting to 10 when she's angry. So Buffy starts counting to 10 very slowly. Then brings up that Will's currently Ozless. Oz isn't around. Tells her to make the first move again, which always works out well. Poor Willow. She's worried about if she'd be considered a slut, Adelia.
Yeah.
For making the first move on your own boyfriend. Anyways, Xander shows up. Willow leaves to help Cordy with homework. Xander is worried about this. Sure. Also, Willow had said it used to be easier when if a guy likes you, he just punch you on the shoulder. And of course, Xander shows up, and the first thing he does is punch Buffy on the shoulder.
Yep.
Not going to be the last time this happens in this episode. So, Xander not thrilled about Cordelia and Willow hanging out more. Buffy asks about his talk with Larry. Now Xander starts getting a little panicky and tells her that he's not the werewolf. And why must she push and push? Adelia, it's just a simple question. Buffy starts feeling guilty about Teresa. And then it dawns on her that no reports of her being mauled were out there. So, chances are there could be another suspect. Adelia, we know who it is. Wink. So, at Teresa's, empty. There's no one else there. Open casket viewing.
Yeah.
At night, mind you. Her suspicions are acknowledged. A couple of vampire bites on the old neck. She says she's still feeling guilty about not having protected her. Xander reminds her of all the people that she did help, including Willow. Stopped Willow from being a robot's, love slave. And then he was, almost bug food to a bug lady teacher and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, still feeling a little guilty. And if, she'd like to apologize to Teresa, she can do it sort of face to face because, Teresa's a vampire. So she jumps out, attacks. Buffy starts winning the fight rather easily, goes to stake her, and then Teresa tells her Angel sends his love. So now I guess vampires can give the living messages so that when they wake up, they can tell other people. Very strange. Anyways, this kind of startles Buffy a bit. She gets kicked off. They're fighting. Teresa actually takes the advantage. Then Xander comes to save the day with the pointiest easel I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Why would you need that? Anyways,
I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense. So Xander, she starts hugging Xander. Xander is a good man here. Says, Angel isn't the same guy that you knew and stuff like that. And when the hug is over, they kind of look at each other, and it's awkward. That's awkward, right?
It is awkward, yes.
Yeah, Xander thinks it was awkward too. And so we see Kane driving. Well, he's actually parked right now. His van is a murder van, I guess, melting down some silver to go and kill a certain werewolf, lead guitarist that we all know. That van seems pretty spacious. I'm going to say that.
It does. It does.
That was an ample room in that van. That could have been like, maybe they could have made a commercial for that van. They would have still made it. So we go over to the Osborne abode. Oz has procured. I don't know if we ever see Oz's house again either, by the way. It's not often to see Oz's, but he has procured somehow some shackles. And he's getting ready to confine himself before the moon rises, which I thought would be up already, seeing how Kane is melting all these bullets in the dark.
Dark it was, yeah.
Again, we're playing with night and day kind of liberally around here. But there's an awful huge racket banging on the doors. He goes over there, and Willow shows up. And once again, she's come day season, Adelia. Starts pleasing with her that it's not a good time.
We have a comment here from Not Nathan Explosion who says we see his house twice, I think.
Ooh, I'm trying to remember the other time. Must be the next year, I guess. Maybe before graduation day. I'm thinking. I'll think about it. Okay.
He tells us once where the nephew bites him.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This twice in the same episode. I thought you meant I was meaning in a further episode. I can't remember if we ever see that house again. Anyways, so he's asking her to leave, but Willow's digging her heels in. She's carpe dieming. You know what I mean? She insists on talking now. Oz tells her that he's going through some changes. Adelia. And Willow asks if he thinks she isn't going through a lot as well. He insists, of course, that not like him, you know. Well, yeah. Willow then calls him a special boy and then notices the chains, Adelia.
Yeah.
Then gets the first kind of reaction. I don't know how to explain it. Like a cramp, a pain in his stomach.
He like lurches over.
Yeah. He tells her again, get out. But this time he falls down to the ground in front of his couch, Adelia, out of sight from poor Miss Rosenberg. So she slowly starts creeping up, as you would when your boyfriend has been knocked to the ground in pain. You slowly creep over to see if he's okay. Goes to have a peek, but werewolf. Werewolf jumps up, Adelia. Yep. Now, Willow escapes. She gets out of the house and runs down the street. Now, two things. Either she's incredibly fast, or the Were-Oz is very slow because she put a sizable lead on that wolf. It's pretty crazy. Meanwhile, we see Kane kind of driving around the suburbs for some reason. I guess maybe
this whole bit with Kane I did not understand.
It wasn't maybe not the most well thought out, but anyways, so he hears the wolf howl and is okay, I got you, and turns around to go deeper into the suburban part of the huge metropolis that Sunnydale is, as you well know.
Yeah.
So Giles is prepping a tranquilizer gun at the library. Buffy fills him in on what's happened with Teresa and her vampiriness. And then he says, she says, I'll have a good cry as soon as they bag themselves a werewolf. Now, Willow runs to the one place. She gets over a fence. She runs to the one place a werewolf will never catch her, Adelia. The woods. Yes.
Where are these woods in relation to the school? Because
we're about to talk about that. So, one little trip trope later, and she's she's a goner. Oh, but wait, Wolfie is starting to smell something, and then wanders off. And again, not quickly, not quickly.
No, not quickly.
No. Yes. Luckily, you can get everywhere in Sunnydale within 15 seconds. I think this has been proven so
Yes.
many times on this show. Because before Giles and Buffy even leave the library, Willow barges in yelling that it's Oz. It's Oz. And then when asked if she's sure, she tells them that he said he was going through these changes, and then there was all these changes.
Yeah.
They promise they're not gonna kill him and stuff like that. And they talk about there's enough phenobarbital in that tranquilizer to knock down an elephant. You know what I mean?
A small elephant, yeah.
Yeah. Now, meanwhile, Kane turns out he's the one who distracted Oz, and he's got this.
Before we get to that, where is Giles getting these tranquilizers?
Where do they get a lot of these things? Maybe they just have them. And again, you just kind of go, meh.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a thing.
It's fun. One thing I do like is that they had like the like laser scope thing or whatever you can see. Oh, I got a dog showing up here. Kane has this big old chunk of meat. Now he aims his rifle at Oz. He says, "Good doggy." And he says, "Now you can play dad." But he gets kicked by Buffy as he was pulling the trigger. Thank goodness. Now, that rifle, they do a close-up of the hammer and stuff. That thing, like we're talking about your Independence Day, looked like that was like from a musket from 1776 as well. Yeah. That thing looked ancient. Maybe that's what helped when Buffy does in a minute. Maybe that's what it made it easier because it's so old. Anyways, yeah, he misses it. Buffy disarms him, butt ends him with it, which is cool. And then she fights off Giles. Giles can't, of course, the old Giles can't get a clean shot. So eventually Buffy gets thrown into Giles, into Willow. Werewolf coming, but Willow actually is the one who gets to her feet, grabs the trank gun, and puts Oz, I was going to say, when I wrote the notes or whatever, and puts Oz to sleep. And I said, well, that isn't a very nice thing, considering it's a werewolf. You shouldn't say maybe knocks Oz unconscious. I think it's a nice way to say it. Anyways, King gets up. He starts complaining that no one's man enough to kill the monsters around there, Adelia. When Buffy decides to grab his
Buffy's
gun,
had enough at this point.
A little. I read about the math or whatever about how much force pressure it would take to do that. I'm going to tell you what, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I would imagine so.
It's a lot. Like, I wouldn't even know how to say it, like mathematically. It would just be all gibberish to me or whatever. It's just like, I'll just say this. I couldn't do it. I could try to do it.
Neither could I. No. I wouldn't even attempt.
Maybe you and I together could do it, but just Buffy could do it by herself. Anyways, yeah, she tells him not to be so sure about that. Then tells him do let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good riddance to Kane.
Yeah, beat it, Kane. Last we see Kane. The actor we may see more of, not in this show, but in another show. Just letting you know.
Okay.
So, Giles informs Willow that Oz will still be Oz in the morning, but just a little sore. That's all. Xander and Buffy are doing the old double entendre thing the next day at school concerning Larry and Oz. Then we get to see two more jerk students knock a girl's book out of her hands, but this time it's nice guy Larry to the rescue, grabbing the book, helping her out. So he goes over to see Xander to thank him again. And does the old shoulder punch thing, Adelia. Shoulder punch thing that Willow was mentioning earlier. Buffy then thinks it's weird that Larry didn't try to look up her skirt. Again.
Yeah.
Larry.
I mean, yeah.
Come on, Larry. Also, she's worried about what the strain of recent events could have on Willow and Oz's relationship. Adelia. This one, I wrote this down. Xander says, "What relationship? I mean, what life could they possibly have together? We're talking obedience school, paper training. Oz is always burying their
so
things.
Disrespectful.
And that's the kind of dog that turns on its owner. Buffy thinks that Oz is more loyal than that. Oz and Willow, doing a little talking here. Giles has told him that he'll be okay as long as he's locked up around the full moon. She apologizes for shooting him. I don't think she had to do that. He apologizes for almost eating her. She probably should.
I mean, I think both of those are fair.
Yeah. 2 wrongs don't make a right, Adelia. But in this case, maybe it does. Maybe.
I mean, I don't think Willow tranquilizing him was a wrong. So I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah. So he talks about how it could take a couple of days for him to get used to being a werewolf. When she asks, like, why didn't you tell me right away? She then tells him that he's nice and funny and doesn't smoke, Adelia.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Those are good things. And tells him 3 days out of the month, she's not very much fun to be around as well.
My initial reaction to that was only 3.
Yeah. So she'd still, if he'd still, and he'd very still, he says. They set a strict no biting rule, which I think is fair, because
it's a very fair rule.
In this world, the rules are a human can bite you if they're a werewolf. You turn into a werewolf. Not like Jordy was a werewolf boy. He was just a boy.
Yeah.
That's why he had to ask.
Yeah.
So if you get bit by a human who's a werewolf, doesn't matter. You're gonna be a werewolf. Anyways, make the biting rule, and Will leaves, and that's it. The end.
No.
Oh, right. So yeah, she comes right back, and not only do they share their first kiss, Adelia, even though it's kind of brief. I think this might be Willow's first kiss, isn't it? I can't. Well, on the show, I can't think.
On the show, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think she ever mentions her having a kiss before.
It probably is her first kiss overall.
The unfortunate part is she goes to class, and then we get an incredibly cheesy line from Oz here, where he just says the last line of the episodes: "A werewolf in love."
Yeah.
Come on.
That was unnecessary.
That was lame. That wasn't great. Anyways, that was the end of the episode. Next time, Adelia. Oh, it's Valentine's Day in Sunnydale.
So that can only go well.
Everything is going to work out just great for everybody. We get to see an old friend that may have been sort of mentioned before. We haven't seen since the first season, so that could be very exciting to see what she's up to these days. Anyways, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered is the next episode. And it kind of sounds like a Guy Fieri television show, you know?
It does have that alliteration.
Triple B's. I should wear my visor and get my hair all spiky.
Oh God!
I could glue on a goatee. That looked pretty cool.
No.
Fine. All right, Adelia, thank you so much for taking time out of your national holiday here to talk Buffy the Vampire Slayer with me. As far as the good old internet goes, what do you have coming up?
Well, this weekend I'll be on LGRN after Snark Tuesday, 2 p.m. Saturday. I'm loopy on cold medicine. Leave me alone. 2 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. I'll be on there with Snark and Danny talking about the Acolyte, and then you guys are going to talk about the boys.
Oh yeah.
Next week should be the return of Starting 11. We took this week off because I'm sick. But we'll be talking about the Euros knockout stage and the Copa America knockout stage, and I'm sure Ferris is going to have a pretty big rant about the Americans. I'm just gonna let him go and say whatever he wants.
I'm sure he'll think it all is fair.
Oh no, he's definitely gonna rant about the Americans. And then next Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific, back on the open table with Ferris on this channel. The Starting 11 is on the Highlights channel. Links to both those channels are in the description of this episode. Please subscribe to this channel if you're watching. We're going through all 144 episodes of Buffy here. So do subscribe and tune in. And also give the video a like. That would really help us out too.
Sure. Yep, and they all drop Thursdays. We're doing this one live, but yes, our regular episodes will come out Thursdays at that same time. I guess that's 6 o'clock Eastern time. They debut.
3 p.m. Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, so of course, yeah, the Highlights channel you mentioned, Starting 11, we'll be back for the Premier League. I'll try and that'll be in August, but I'll try to make it to at least one more of these special Euros / Copa America episodes that you're doing right now. Hopefully I can make it. Let's see what else. Oh, playoff beards. We just did our can't decide if it's the season finale or the season premiere, where we talked about free agency and the draft and stuff like that with our pal Ryan Christensen, also on the Highlights. And then yeah, LGRN after Snark weekends. You'll be on. We got a Brazilian on there. Speaking of 4th of July, which makes sense to me somehow. What else we got? That's it. That's it. I think we're done. Great.
I think we're done.
Yes. Oh well. It's hard to say goodbye to phases. You know what I mean? We got a whole new world for Oz, whole new world for Willow. Can't wait to see where it comes. The next few episodes, which are all, by the way, great. What an end. What a finish to the season. Season 2 was great. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching. And until next time, bye-bye.